Our next speaker is Marina Latini from SUSE, and she will talk about DocKit, a tool to automate the creation of software documentation. Take it away.
Thanks for being here. So let's try to understand a bit who we are now. So I suppose that you're familiar with the struggle when you are dealing with a software and you need to find the documentation, or even more, to create your own documentation for your project in a way that is understandable also by potentially new contributors that are not extremely familiar with your specific open source project. And yeah, you want to have those potentially new contributors getting started easily and fast. So DocKit is something that I want to present you because, at least from my point of view, it's a nice way to create good documentation that is also nice to see and easy to read without spending too much time in creating what is needed behind for making it possible. Well, I'm not going to tell you too much about me. I want to leave you some references, so if you want, you can also reach me. But this is the core of this presentation today. As you can see, there is a reference to DApps, and this is something that I already presented in a previous edition of SFSCon. So I'm not going into the details of that part of the tool, because DocKit actually is something that can be used together with DApps. And on the previous presentation, you can find all the details on how to do the setup, how it works, all the automation that is available and it's possible to use for creating the documentation. So let's imagine that you have a really good tool that is DApps that is already automating a lot of the steps for creating your documentation. Now, the point is that still, you need to bootstrap this tool with all the steps needed for having something where you can really focus on and where you can really start to write your documentation. And this is DocKit. So for using the tool, you need to, of course, take care of having both installed. And from the first link, so the previous presentation, you can find all the details on how to install it. But the good thing is that if you like to go with the container way, there are containers ready for installing DApps. If you prefer to install it from the regular packages that you can find in your open source operating system, there are also regular packages. And for DocKit, this is, again, another open source tool, and it's what is used for writing the documentation for OpenSUSE, but also for SUSE. Because, again, with DApps and with DocKit, what you can do is to automate the creation of this documentation, but at the same time, you can also customize it really quickly. So for instance, you have your open source project and you also are providing some kind of support on it. You could have, starting with the same kind of documentation, a different look and feel for the version that has the support and your completely community version of the project. And it's really easy because with DApps and DocKit, you can just define in the documentation which are the sections that should show up in your, let's say, enterprise version with support or in the version that everyone can use. And I'm not talking only about a feature that you want to differentiate, but mainly could be also some kind of different layout that you want to use or different logos that you want to put in your documentation. So you can really customize the look and feel of the documentation, and you can just focus on writing, because all the layout, all the template will be handled really with a few clicks and few lines directly with DAPS and Dockit. So again, you need to have both, and when everything is installed, you can use Dockit for doing the bootstrapping of this new documentation. Which kind of documentation? Well, in my case, the example I want to show you today is about the release notes, because the release notes are absolutely important, but are a pain. Normally, that one, honestly, yes, it's like that. If in an open source project you can find the time to have a proper documentation, it's not a given that you will also find the time to have proper release notes. And with the Dockit, you can create, again, some really nice to see and easy to use, also accessible, finally, release notes. That is also something important, because at the end, release notes are the first place where someone a little bit more into your product or project is trying to look into for understanding what is going on, what is supported, what is changing, and so on. So release notes is one of those kind of documentation that you can bootstrap with Dockit. Then, behind the hood, you can use AsciiDoc or DocBook 5, and you can write the DocBook 5 books. Or in DocBook, I don't know if you are familiar with it, but you can define some entities that you can then reuse inside your documentation, kind of templates with parts that are fixed that you don't want to re-edit every time. So if you want, you can also define, start a completely fresh new entities DocBook 5 kind of documentation. Then there is also the last category that is called Smart Doc. This is something specific that SUSE is using, and it's a different kind of documentation, so it's not the usual user manual, but it's something more focused on a specific task. And given that those kind of documentations are something helpful for users that don't want to read hundreds of pages of your great, marvelous documentation, but they want to just go into the specific topic. Why not? We have the Smart Doc bootstrap, so in that way, you, again, just go to the content, write that one without thinking at all at the structure, at the layout that you should use for this kind of documentation. So we know what we could use Dockit for. Let's try to understand how. Well, it's easy, again. We are talking about something that can be used with the command line, but it's nothing really complex. So you need to have your directory. You initialize it as a Git repository. You run Dockit as a command. And then you just need to follow the step-by-step setup that the tool will propose. If the kind of document, the type of document that you selected could have some additional steps, the setup will tell you. Otherwise, it's really next. Finally, also on Linux, we can have something that is just next. And when the setup is done, Dockit will download for you all the initial templates with all the parts of the document that then you can just start to edit and customize for your specific kind of documentation. So step 6, you have the download, and then we are almost there. Suggestion is when you have the initial download, try to do a git add and do an initial commit, so then you can eventually change and fix mistakes. But the customization step is absolutely straightforward. If you are familiar in general with DocBook or AsciiDoc, there's nothing additional that you need to learn for using Dockit or DAPS. And that's it. You have your customized files. Then step 9, do a validate of the files, because maybe during the editing something could have gone wrong. And if the validation is fine, you just run the command for building your documentation. In this example, I'm building some release notes in PDF. And that is done. The output will tell you in which path you have the PDF, in this case, the PDF saved. You can check and see how they look. So here is, for the release notes, what you get. It's a PDF. It's really the default. So the skeleton that you get and that you can customize is with the SUSE logo, but of course you can customize it. Automatically you can have some style sheet that are defining all the layout and so on. So in this case, the default is proposing you the SUSE logo, but yeah, I mean, you put your style sheet with your logo, the logo of your project. You can change the color, the schema that you want to use. And from something like this, let me show you, for instance, this is what we have for the release notes, the current release notes of the Uyuni project. And I didn't mention Uyuni until now, but actually this is the, I mean, I already presented something about Uyuni in another edition, so I'm not stealing the time we have. But the idea is that, again, the release notes are there, but can you read it? No. Also, from an accessibility point of view, it's a disaster, because even the contrast is not good enough. It's, yeah, the content is there, but we could do something better, definitely, yes. So this is how things can be done with Dockit. So I took the default configuration, I did some customization. In this case, I decided to do the rendering in HTML, because the previous, the existing one, this nice, fancy documentation release notes are in HTML, published in HTML. And this is the outcome. It's really few steps, but it seems a complete different set of information that is available and can be made available. So this is, I hope it's a good example for inviting you to have a look at Dockit and to try to use it also in your projects. I don't know if you have questions or other curiosity? We still have a bit of time.
Is there someone with a question in the audience? Please hold up your hand. No questions? I have a question for you.
Sure.
You talked about release notes being difficult to compile. Is there some assistance in compiling the actual notes as well, or just in the formatting?
This one is just for the formatting. Of course, you need to provide the information, but the templates that you have are already guiding you on organizing the content in a more structured way. So should, in any case, help you to work on the release notes.
So the templates are release file specific and ask for...
Yeah,
specific.
For instance, you have a template where you can insert the licenses part or some introduction part. So this structure is already guiding on what should be in the release notes. And the same applies to the other kind of documents. Then some good copy-paste from existing documentation that you have for your project, and things could bootstrap faster.
Yeah, please.
Is there any way, kind of a repository of a template, the default template files to?
Yeah, I didn't show you, but actually from the first, from the first link, there is all the documentation for DApps. On the second one, there is the Dockit one, and of course there are all the templates. Everything is there.
So you can use them to as a guiding line to.
Yeah. When you do the
to
bootstrap of the project, the templates will be there, and in what DocKit will download for you, you will find in all those files the files that will be automatically updated if you run again DocKit, or the one that you can just customize because are not touched by the automation. So files are there, templates are there.
Thank you.
It's open source, contributions are welcome, so absolutely.